All right, so get this. We're going deep today, like
Yeah.
really deep into the world of cybercrime and espionage. It's going to be a wild ride. You probably heard of the Lazarus group, right? The hackers.
Yeah, they're the ones that give cybersecurity folks nightmares, basically.
Exactly. But the thing is, they're not just your average hackers,
Yeah.
you know? They're allegedly backed by North Korea.
Yeah, which
Mm.
makes them really interesting because they're not just after money. There's this whole espionage angle to them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They've been linked to some crazy stuff like massive heists, Hollywood hacks, and now they're all about cryptocurrency. It's like they're always one step ahead.
Right. Today, we'll try to unpack how they got started, what their biggest moves have been, and why catching them is so darn tough.
Sounds good. So let's start at the beginning. Where did this all start? When did they first pop up on the radar?
Well, they sort of emerged back in the early 2000s. And like I said from the get-go, they weren't just focused on money. They were also into cyber espionage, allegedly stealing sensitive data, intellectual property, all to, bolster North Korea's economy and maybe even their nuclear
No,
program.
and you're saying they were using cybercrime to fund a nuclear program.
That's what's being alleged, yeah.
That's intense.
It is. But they didn't really become a global threat until 2014 with the Sony Pictures hack.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Weren't they upset about a movie or something?
Yeah, The Interview. It was a comedy that, well, poked fun at Kim Jong-un.
Ah, right. The movie about assassinating Kim Jong-un. I guess that didn't go over too well in North Korea.
Nope, not at all. And that's when the Lazarus group really made a statement. They hacked into Sony Pictures and leaked a ton of confidential data, like emails, unreleased films, employee info. It was a mess.
It sounds like they were trying to make an example out of Sony, more than anything else.
Yeah, it was definitely a show of force. And they did it by combining, their malware and hacking skills with psychological warfare. Like they were threatening employees, moviegoers, really trying to cause chaos.
So it wasn't just about stealing data. It was about disrupting everything, sowing fear.
Exactly. And that's really what sets them apart. They're not just technically brilliant, they're also masters of intimidation.
Hmm.
The Sony hack basically put the world on notice. The Lazarus Group is a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, so if the Sony hack was their big debut, their next act was even more insane. They tried to steal $1 billion from a bank. $1 billion!
Yeah, the 2016 Bangladesh bank heist,
Yeah.
one of the most audacious cyber attacks ever. They went after the Bangladesh bank, which controls the country's entire financial system.
Wait, so they were trying to steal from a central bank? Like rob an entire country?
Pretty much. They targeted the SWIFT network. That's the system banks all over the world use to transfer money. Trillions of dollars flow through SWIFT every day.
So they hacked into the system that basically runs global finance.
I almost pulled it off.
What stopped them?
Believe it or not, a typo.
No way. A typo stopped a $1 billion heist. You're kidding, right?
Nope. One tiny typo in one of their transfer requests, and the whole thing started to unravel.
Wow. Talk about a lucky break. But they still got away with some money, didn't they?
Yeah, $81 million, which they laundered through casinos in the Philippines. It was a big hit to Bangladesh's economy, and it really exposed the vulnerabilities of the global financial system.
81 million is still a ton of money. It's mind-boggling that they even attempted something like that. And the crazy thing is, they didn't stop there. They just kept going.
That's right. And their next move? Cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency. So they went from targeting banks to going after Bitcoin.
Exactly. And it was a smart move. In 2022, they pulled off another massive heist, this time stealing over $600 million in cryptocurrency from the Ronin network.
Okay, I need a little help here. What's the Ronin network?
It's a blockchain, basically a digital ledger, that powered the online game Axie Infinity.
Oh yeah, Axie Infinity. I've heard of that. The game with the little creatures.
That's the one. Players could buy, sell, and trade those creatures and other stuff in the game using cryptocurrency on the Ronin network. It was like a whole digital economy.
Okay, got it. So how did they steal $600 million worth of crypto? That's insane.
Well, they used a combination of social engineering and some really sophisticated hacking. They tricked a Ronin employee into giving up their login information and then used that to get into the network and drain funds from these things called bridges, which connect different blockchains.
So they used deception and high-level hacking skills to basically pull off a digital bank robbery.
Pretty much. And it just shows how adaptable they are. They're not stuck in the past. They're always evolving their tactics and finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities.
Which makes them even harder to stop. Because how do you stop a group that's always one step ahead, especially when they're allegedly backed by a nation state?
That's the challenge, isn't it? It's like trying to catch a ghost in the digital world. They're incredibly elusive.
Yeah.
It really is, yeah. They're experts at covering their tracks.
So how do you even begin to track them down? I mean, it's not like they have a headquarters with a big neon sign that says Lazarus Group on it, right?
Right. It's all digital. They could be operating from anywhere.
And with North Korea allegedly backing them, they've got resources most criminal organizations could only dream of.
Exactly. It makes them very, very difficult to stop.
So what are we doing about it? What's being done to try to take them down?
Well, a lot, actually. There are sanctions against individuals and organizations suspected of being connected to them. Plus, cybersecurity companies are constantly working to understand their methods, analyzing their malware, looking for patterns, and law enforcement agencies around the world are trying to disrupt their financial networks and get back the money they've stolen.
It sounds like a huge effort, a lot of people working on this. But are we making any progress?
It's slow going, but there's definitely been progress. One big thing is that they've forced everyone to really step up their cybersecurity game. I mean, banks, governments, businesses, they've all had to rethink how they protect their systems and data.
So they've made the whole world take cybersecurity more seriously, even if it was in a bad way.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Okay, so we've gone from their early days, this blend of cyber espionage and financial crime, to, attacks that shook Hollywood and the global financial system, and now they're into crypto. What does this all mean for us regular folks? What's the takeaway here?
I think the big takeaway is that state-sponsored cybercrime is real. It's not some far-off threat. It's happening now, and it's only going to get more sophisticated.
It feels like we're living in a spy movie, but this is actually happening in the digital world. What can we do about it? I mean, can we actually combat this kind of high-level cybercrime, or is this just the new normal?
Well, there are things we can do, both individually and collectively.
Give us the rundown. Where do we start?
First and foremost, we need to really prioritize cybersecurity. And I don't just mean installing antivirus software. It's about building systems that are resilient, constantly updating defenses, and really embracing what's called a zero trust mentality.
Zero trust. Sounds intense.
It is. Basically, you operate under the assumption that every user, every device, every single connection could be compromised. You're constantly verifying and authenticating everything.
So basically, never trust, always verify. Got it. What else?
The human element is really important, too. We talked about how the Lazarus group uses social engineering to trick people.
Right, like getting that Ronin employee to give up their login info.
Right. So educating people about how to protect themselves is crucial, teaching them to spot phishing attempts, be skeptical of suspicious emails, that kind of thing.
So cybersecurity awareness is key. What about on a larger scale, like governments and organizations? What can they do?
Well, organizations definitely need to invest in cybersecurity training for their employees. And globally, we need better collaboration and information sharing. Imagine if governments, law enforcement agencies, and cybersecurity companies were all working together, sharing intelligence and coordinating investigations.
Yeah, makes sense. Cybercrime doesn't stop at borders, so a global response is needed. But what about stopping them in the first place? How do you deter a group like the Lazarus Group?
That's the tricky part. Traditional methods of deterrence don't seem to work on them.
Right. It's not like they're going to back down because of a strongly worded letter.
Exactly. So we need to explore other options, maybe a combination of economic sanctions, diplomatic pressure, even cyber countermeasures.
You mean like hacking back? Isn't that dangerous?
It's tricky, for sure. Any kind of cyber countermeasure would have to be carefully considered and done within the boundaries of international law.
It sounds like we're in a cyber arms race then.
In a way, yes. Technology keeps advancing, and so do the methods used by cyber criminals. It's this constant back and forth.
Okay, so zooming out a bit here, what does the Lazarus Group story tell us about the future of cybercrime? I mean, are we going to see more of these huge state-sponsored attacks?
I think it's definitely a possibility, unfortunately. As our world becomes more and more connected, the potential targets just keep growing and the stakes get higher.
And the line between cybercrime, espionage, and actual warfare is getting blurrier and blurrier all the time.
Exactly. We're already seeing cyber attacks used as a tool in geopolitical conflicts. The Lazarus Group is a perfect example of this, and they're probably just the tip of the iceberg.
So what can we do as individuals to protect ourselves in this, increasingly risky cyber world?
There are some simple things you can do that can really make a difference.
Like what? Give us the tips.
Be careful about what you share online. Don't overshare personal information on social media. Be really cautious about clicking links or opening attachments from sources you don't recognize. And always, always use strong, unique passwords for all your accounts.
Good advice. Strong passwords are so important.
They really are. Oh, and enable two-factor authentication whenever you can. It's an extra layer of security that can really help.
Okay, two-factor authentication. Got it. Anything else?
Yeah, one more thing. Stay updated. Make sure your software, your operating systems, everything is up to date. Those updates often include important security patches.
Okay, so be mindful, be careful, and keep everything updated. Sounds like good advice, but it also sounds like cybersecurity is going to be a constant challenge for all of us, individuals, businesses, governments, everyone.
It will be, but the good news is that people are becoming more aware how important it is.
Right. As the threats evolve, so do the ways to protect ourselves.
Exactly. It's a constant process. We have to keep learning, keep adapting, and stay curious. Because the Lazarus Group isn't going to be the last cyber threat we face.
Okay, so we've covered the challenges, the strategies, the risks, and what we can do to try to protect ourselves. But let's zoom out even further.
Right.
What does the rise of groups like the Lazarus Group tell us about how power and conflict are changing in the 21st century?
That's a great question, and one that's worth exploring further. We'll delve into that in the final part of our deep dive.
All right, welcome back. We've been digging into this whole Lazarus Group thing, the crazy heists, the shift from Hollywood to crypto, and the worldwide effort to stop them. But let's zoom out for a second. What's the bigger picture here? Like, what does this all mean for the world?
Well, it shows that cyber warfare, it's not just something for movies anymore. It's happening right now, and it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the technical stuff and forget about the real-world impact.
Right. What's fascinating to me is that this kind of power, the power to disrupt things on a global scale, it's not just limited to big countries with huge armies anymore.
You're saying that even smaller countries or groups like the Lazarus Group can have a huge impact using cyber attacks.
Exactly. It's kind of like the digital world has leveled the playing field in a way.
It's a little scary to think about, honestly.
It is. I mean, think about it. A group of skilled hackers anywhere in the world could potentially disrupt a major company, mess up a financial system, even shut down a country's infrastructure.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely unsettling. So are we saying that wars are going to be fought with keyboards instead of guns now?
I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's something we need to think about. It definitely changes how we think about conflict and how we protect ourselves.
Yeah, it's not like you can just build a wall to stop a cyber attack.
Nope. And that's what makes groups like the Lazarus Group so dangerous. They operate in this gray area between cybercrime and, actual acts of war. It's hard to define, hard to defend against.
It makes you wonder, if they can steal hundreds of millions of dollars, what else could they do?
That's the big question, isn't it? The possibilities are kind of terrifying. Imagine if they attacked a power grid and a whole city went dark. Or a stock exchange causing chaos in the markets.
Or like a communications network, knocking out emergency services and transportation.
Exactly. It could be devastating.
So what can we do? Is there any way to stop this?
It's a huge challenge, but we're not powerless. We have to take it seriously, invest in the resources and strategies we need to defend ourselves in this new digital world.
We've talked about some of those strategies, like better cybersecurity, educating people, working together globally. But is that enough?
It's a good start, but we have to keep evolving. The threats are constantly changing, so we have to stay ahead of the curve.
So it's not just up to governments and tech people to figure this out. It's on all of us.
Absolutely. Everyone has a role to play in cybersecurity. Be careful what you click on, use strong passwords, keep your software updated. Those things matter.
The Lazarus Group has shown us that the stakes are really high.
No doubt. It's not just about protecting data anymore. It's about protecting our way of life in this interconnected world.
Okay, so if we had to boil it down to one key takeaway from all of this, what would it be?
Cybersecurity is a human issue. It's not just about technology. We all have to do our part to keep ourselves, our communities, and the world safe in this digital age.
That's a good way to put it. The Lazarus Group might feel like something out of a movie, but it's real, and it's happening now. And how we respond to this is going to shape the future.
Well said. It's a future we're all building together, whether we realize it or not.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the Lazarus Group and the world of cyber warfare. We just scratched the surface, but hopefully this has given you something to think about. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and stay safe out there. Until next time.